Good morning and welcome to Sparks. After serving for many years in South Africa, missionary Robert Moffat returned to Scotland in the early 1800s to recruit more missionaries. He arrived at one little church on a cold winter's night, and only a small group of women had turned out to hear him. And while he was grateful for their interest, he'd hoped to challenge men of the community to consider coming to the mission field for tribes in foreign lands. Still, Moffat preached his prepared message on Proverbs 8 verse 4, "Unto you, O men, I call." Towards the end of his sermon, the missionary noticed a young boy in the congregation of women. Although no one volunteered to go to Africa that evening and he thought he'd failed, the little boy was deeply moved by the challenge. That night the boy promised God that he would follow in the footsteps of the missionary. True to his word, when he grew up, he went and ministered to the tribes of Africa. That boy's name was David Livingstone, and he became one of the world's greatest missionaries and adventurers. In the story of the boy Samuel being divinely called, he heard the call and then accepted what God had to say to him that night. Now, unlike Samuel, few of us are open to actually hearing the voice of God when he calls us. Our doubts, our fears cause us to ignore God. Instead, we listen to a voice inside that says, well, God can't possibly use someone like me. I can't do that. I'm not worthy. I'll have to think about it. We push God aside and we settle for the voice that speaks to our perceived limitations and our fears and our, maybe worthy commitments that we're involved in, and sometimes even our laziness. But when God calls you to serve him, he isn't concerned about your age or your abilities. I was in my 50s when the Lord called me into this particular pastorate here at Ignite, so I can attest to that. He knows your weaknesses, but he also knows your heart and your potential. He's got a much better perspective, much better than you, on what you can become if you answer his call. So today I want to encourage you to listen to God's voice in your life, and when he speaks to you, say as Samuel did, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." God bless you. Listen to God, and we'll see you tomorrow on Sparks.